Today the goal is to make a game. We're gonna make the game Whack-A-Mole. Has anyone ever heard of Whack-A-Mole? Try the raise your hand button if you've heard of Whack-A-Mole. So I think Whack-A-Mole is something that used to play at the arcade. We used to like see moles pop up and then you have to hit them down. So we're going to run some code here. Right now we have nothing. All we have is our scoreboard. So I want you to look at the three files. We have index.html, then we have script.js, then style.css. Okay? So in the index.html, we don't have that much. We just have our body, and then we have a group of images. These are going to be our moles. And then we have the score. So we can see the score, but we can't see the moles yet. So let's take a look at why. Okay, so the moles start out with no height, but they start out having margin. And it seems like our moles become visible and then they get height. So height here is defined in VH. Does anyone know what VH stands for? Please type your answer in the chat. VH. View height sounds good. Yeah, I think that's right. So these are. So what does view height mean, Chris? If you want to unmute, explain that for a second.
So I believe it means it's talking about the like the browser window that you're looking at. It takes that into account. So you can put like 100 view height would be basically 100% of the window you are looking at.
That's right. With 20 v height, how much of that should be taken up? What does 20 v height mean?
Kind of like a fifth or 20% of the actual view port.
Okay, cool. I think we can get rid of position relative. Actually, I have that in there, but I don't think I need that for this. So right now they're not appearing because they don't have any height. We have this class visible that gets added in our JavaScript. First of all, let's look to see if visible appears anywhere in the JavaScript. Does anyone see visible appearing anywhere in the JavaScript?
Yeah, line 15.
Okay, line 15, that's right, Thomas, right here. So it looks like that's inside this function show. So what do you think that function show is doing, Tapas?
So it will the mole will be displayed?
Yes, that's right. We pass in mole and then that mole will be displayed. That's right. Okay, so where is that function called right now? Can anyone see that?
Yeah, row 9, line 9.
Line 9, that's right. So here it's called inside of something called SetTimeout. Does anyone know what SetTimeout means? If you know, please send your definition in the chat. SetTimeout. Okay, Chris says it's a function that delays a function call or action. So we can say like, I think I would just say it takes two parameters, the function and then when to run the function, okay? It actually has a third argument you can pass in, which is an argument for that function, but we're just not gonna use that here. So we're gonna say, hey, show this mole, and we're gonna do it in rand times 500. Rand starts out as 5, but we're gonna change that in a second. So this is saying in 2500 milliseconds, show the mole. Okay, so all of this is inside of $moles for each. What is $moles for each? That's right, Alice. It's going to iterate through all the moles. So this is our loop, okay? Yeah, I'd say it's a method's right. It's a method that's going to iterate through all our moles. So if you look up top of line 1, we get all of our moles with the query selector. So it's going to say, hey, get every element with the class mole and then store it in this variable. So if we look back to our index.html, we have a bunch of images with the class mole. Then we're going to say, okay, take each one and do this function. And this is just new function syntax. Here's our parameter. Here's our fat arrow. Here are our curly brackets. Pretty similar to old function syntax, except there's not the word function, and we get the fat arrow. So now we're not seeing any moles yet. Why don't we see any moles? If we have the function that does a loop, that then sends a timeout to show the mole in 2.5 seconds, why don't I see a mole when I click run? That's right, Nico. We have to call the function. So if you look down line 30 with a note, we have to call move moles to start the program. Okay, Javier says, why the dollar signs? So dollar signs are kind of shorthand for global variables. It doesn't do anything magical. It's just a note to other developers. Hey, if you see this variable and there's a dollar sign, that means I defined it globally or pretty much globally, and that was on purpose. It wasn't by accident or anything. Some of you guys have asked me why I don't use let or const for these global variables, and that's because let or const defined for global variable doesn't do much. No problem, Javier. Okay, so I'm going to go down to line 30, and I'm going to call move moles. Okay, so I wrote move moles. Is that enough to call the function? Parentheses, parentheses. Good old rounded brackets, I think is what the British would say, yeah? Okay, so let's click round, move moles, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, up. Okay, what happened? Move moles was called, and it iterated through each mole, and then it said like, okay, we're going to show each mole in 2.5 seconds. So what would I have to change about line 9 to show each mole in 1 second instead of 2.5 seconds? What would I have to change line 9? Keep it simple first. I'm just going to say 1,000. Okay, run, 1 Mississippi, boom, moles. Okay. Well, if I want to do 10 seconds, what do I write? 10,000, sounds good. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, moles. Okay, perfect. So right now, I don't want all the moles appearing at the same time. I want the moles to appear at different times. So I have a note here, line 7, use math.random and math.ceil to come up with a random number between 1 and 10. Okay, so how can I use math.random and math.ceil to come up with that new random number? Okay, guesses on math.random and math.ceil. Alice says math.floor, math.random times 10. I think that sounds pretty good. So let's say random equals math.floor, and then math.random times 10. Now there's one thing I would change. So Chris, you have math.ceil instead of math.floor. So either we could use ceil or floor. What's the difference between ceil and floor? Does anyone know offhand? We used floor last week. That's right. 4 rounds down. Alice has it. Ceil rounds up. So Alice, I'm going to do the same thing that you did, but I'm going to try .ceil because I don't want to get 0 seconds. I always want it to be a little bit of time. Okay? I actually don't know what happens. If it said timeout, I guess it would just be right away. Actually, we can see what that floor. Let's see what it looks like. We'll try that floor first. We can always try .ceil. So I'm going to say rand equals this. Now, what do I have to change about line 9? Now that I have my random number. So we have between 0 and 9 seconds stored in rand. What do I have to change about line 9? Show mole rand. Well, if I show mole rand, I think that's close, Javier, but I think we're slightly off because then if I run this, they're all at the same time. Why is that? We said, hey, come in 0 milliseconds or 1 millisecond or 2 milliseconds. Those are all so similar, you know? So Chris says times 1,000. Let's multiply times 1,000. And that's going to be like 1,000 milliseconds or 0 milliseconds or 2,000 milliseconds. Oh, there we go. That's pretty cool. Let's run it again. Ah, finally, the last mole showed up. Nice of you to join the party. Okay. So what's the longest it would take for this to run? What's the longest this program would take to run right now? Javier says 10 seconds. Chris says 9 seconds. Okay, Alice, it is 9. Alice, could you explain why it's 9 seconds?
Because we use math.floor, so.
Yeah, that's right. So we said, hey, it could be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It can't be 10 because we're always rounding down. Okay? So we're going to say, hey, I want you to find a mole, give it a timeout, mole, timeout, mole, timeout, mole, timeout. That's pretty good. So right now, if the longest it can take is 9 seconds, I want to use SetTimeout to call this function again, the moveMoles function. This says 5 seconds, but let's call it again in 10 seconds. Okay? So how could I use SetTimeout to call moveMoles again? Let's start with this. Why do I want to call moveMoles again? Why call moveMoles again from itself? What we want to have the moles constantly. I should explain a little bit more about the game. We want the moles to pop up, go away, pop up, go away, pop up, go away, pop up, go away. Okay? If I want the moles to come again, we have to do two things. One is we have to hide the moles, and two, we have to have the moles appear again. Okay? So let's put line 11 to the side. I want to hide the moles. If you look at line 17, we have a SetTimeout set there to hide the moles. It says use class list to hide the mole. Look in CSS for the class that hides the mole. So if you look in our CSS file, there is a class that hides the mole. What's that class? What's the class that we have to add to our mole to make it disappear? Yeah, Alice has it. .mole.hide. Okay, so the .hide. Now, how do you know that I don't see anything about appearance here? How do we know that that class makes the mole disappear? How do we know? It just says animation duration, animation name. How do we know that the mole disappears? Keyframes, okay. Chris, could you unmute and explain a little bit?
So keyframes. So basically in like the .mole.hide, you're naming, you're giving the animation itself a name, and you're telling it how long it's going to run. And then you use keyframes with the name that you have assigned to that class. And then you're telling it to do something like starting from and going to. In this case, it's the height and margin.
Yeah, let's slow down a little bit. I think you're right, but let's slow down. So animation name means, hey, when I appear, I want to run this animation. Okay? Where is this animation defined? It's defined on line 32. Okay, then you're explaining from and to.
You're telling the computer that the animation is going to start from height of 20 VH and a margin of 0. And it's going to go to height of 0 with a margin of 10 VH. So it's telling it where to start and end.
So when the mole has a height of 0, then it's basically disappeared. Okay, so it goes from having a height of 20% to a height of 0. In our JavaScript, we're going to add the class mole hide, or really the class hide, to our mole to make it disappear. Okay? So the instructions say use class list. There's an example of how to use class list on line 15. So the mole is the individual image, and .ClassList lets us access all the classes that are assigned to that image. Now, if you're new to CSS, that just says, hey, these are which styles I'm going to use. So when the mole is visible, then it's going to use this animation, the pop-up, and it'll end up with height of 20%. And when it uses this set of classes, it has a different set of styles. Okay? So, go back to my JavaScript. How can I use class list to switch the classes from mole visible to mole hide? Okay, Alice says mole.classlist mole hide. Chris says the same thing, mole classlist mole hide. Looks good. Okay, mole.classlist equals, and the way this is written looks kind of crazy because a lot of time in JavaScript you're using functions, and here it's just kind of an attribute you're setting. Okay, so let's try this. Run. Whoa. Okay, pretty cool, but only goes through one time right now. Okay, so we're only displaying the moles once. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we're not gonna get any more moles. So all this happens if I call move moles. Now if I want more moles to appear, maybe I could say like, I could call move moles again. See what happens now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Maybe I miscounted. Or maybe some of them overlapped. So why did I get more moles that time? Yeah, Chris says the function ran twice. Chris says function called twice. So I could just keep calling this again and again and again, but that's not going to be that. That doesn't look like very good code. And there's a problem, which is that after 10 seconds, no matter how many times I call the function, it's going to stop there. Okay. So we want a way for this to keep going on and on and on indefinitely. What can I write on line 11 to call the function again after it's finished? We want to run the code after all of these. Javier has a cool example, which is SetTimeout, move moles. I think you can just do this, Javier. Just move moles like that. And we're going to say 1, 2, 3. Okay. Moles. Moles. I think that's pretty good. So what's that called? When you call a function from itself, what's that called? Recursion. That's right, recursion. Okay? We're calling the function from inside the function. So I think that's pretty sweet. So now we get the moles showing up. We're still missing some functionality here. One thing that I'd like to do is add to my score when I click a mole. Okay? First thing I want to do, I want to write my function for add to score test first. So on line 26, we take all the moles and we do a for each. So each mole is available to us inside of the loop. What's add event listener mean? So add event listener is a native JavaScript method that adds an event listener to the item. So here, mole is a node on the screen, okay? And it has a method called add event listener, okay? Add event listener takes 2 arguments. First, there is a type of event. So I can write click, that's a type of event. Then it takes a function. So here, my function is going to be add to the score. I want to add to my score every time that someone clicks the mole. So let's do a test. Inside add to score, I'm just going to write console.log hit. Okay, run this. There we go. And see, I got hit right there when I clicked my mole. See if I can get another mole here. Come on, mole. There we go. Hit again. Okay. So what's happening is that when I write moles for each, it's going through each image with the class mole. Then it's taking each of those images, it's adding the event listener, click, add to score. So that means that the event is the click, and then add to score is the function. So there's this loop that happens over and over again. The browser is looking for events that are happening on the page in real time. So when you click something, it's going to say, hey, that's an event. Let me check my list of event listeners. Yes, I'm listening on the document for someone clicking a mole. Okay, click the mole. Now what do? It says here I add to score. So I'll go here, do this code. Okay, I'm going to console.log hit. Now instead of doing this, my final version, I want to change this number. Okay. I have my score starts as 0, and my scoreboard is $scoreboard. How can I update my score and then update the screen to show our new score? First, let's start with the score. $score starts at 0. I just hit my mole, so I want to increase it by 1. How do I do that? Plus equals 1. Those both work. Let's try that. Okay, now how can I assign this value score to the scoreboard? This guy right here. There's this neat method we can use. I mentioned right here, inner text. Inner HTML work also. Let's try inner text. Inner HTML will look for HTML, so it's just safer to use inner text when you're just inserting text that's not a node. I'm going to say $scoreboard. Okay. So let's run this and try it. There we go. I got 2 points. I hit that mole twice. There we go. 5 hits. Space before the dot. Oh, it's somehow working anyway. Because that's 5 is still happening. Okay, 1. I think I'm not finishing the click in some of these situations. There we go. 4 points. Okay. That's working now. Any questions on that part? $sign is explaining why it's in the variable name. The $sign in the variable name is to denote a global variable. So you will often see this syntax. It's slightly different from $sign parentheses. $sign parentheses is jQuery. $sign, then the name of the variable, means, hey, this is a global variable, and I'm going to use it all over the scope. Okay, so now I'm storing the score on my moles here. Doing pretty well with my moles. What if I wanted to change it so that if I just move the mouse over the mole, I get points? Does anyone know what would I have to change? What would I have to change about my code? So instead of having to click, I just have to move my mouse over. Chris says on mouse over. So it's not actually on mouse over. It's whenever you have those events, like on this, on that, it's just going to be whatever you have without the on. So it's just going to be mouse over. Okay. That's 7 points, 9 points, 10 points, 11 points, 12 points, 14. Okay, so what I want to do is give a time limit. So I can only play the game for so long. How can I set that up? Let's say I only want the game to go for 30 seconds. What would I have to change about the code to only let the game go for 30 seconds? Set timeout sounds pretty good. Set timeout on line 30 or 33. Okay, so that would set this set timeout break. That's interesting. Set timeout to the function call. So set timeout, guys. I think you're in the right, going in the right direction. So maybe I could have a set timeout that says, "Hey, the game is over." So let me add a variable here. This will be a global variable. So what do I start my global variables with? $. That's right. That's right, Leona. $. Okay, I'm gonna say like plain equals true. And then I want to do a set timeout so that in 30 seconds, plain is going to be false. How would I write that? I have to call set timeout. And then set timeout takes 2 arguments. What are the 2 arguments? Well, 3. You can pass a third one. But what are the arguments? What's the first argument of set timeout? Well, Chris, you're saying move moles. But what is move moles? It's a function. So first thing we pass set timeout is a function. What's the second thing we pass set timeout? It's the time. That's right, Alice, the time. I'm going to write my own function right here. Just a fat arrow function. And I'm just going to say $plain equals false. And then my second argument, how about I write 30 seconds in milliseconds? It's just going to be 30, 1, 2, 3. Okay? Every time I go through, I'm going to console log plain to check on it. Okay? So let's see what happens. So first time it looks like it's true. True. Okay, I have 2 trues. True. True. Uh-oh. Console log plain never became false. There it is, false finally. Okay. That took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to there. But what happened? Why was it true, 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 false, false? What happened there? Javier, what do you think? You want to unmute and take a guess?
I think it ran 1 time more than we wanted. That's a big. I'm just talking about the 4 truths. So it definitely ran once further than we wanted.
Yeah, I think that's right. Well, maybe we should just say like, just a little bit longer than. So what would we have to change here then?
Make it 20,000.
Well, I think that'll make it happen sooner. So yeah, maybe we should say like. Could try. Let's say like 29.9. So this will be like. Maybe like this. So this is 29,900. So we get true the first time. True the second time. I guess we're hoping for 3 trues here, right? True the third time. Let's see how we do here. False. Beautiful. Okay. So we're cheating them out of a 1/10 of a second, but we're cheating them a little bit. But what happened there? But why does it actually switch, Javier?
I think because we are finishing 1/10 of a second before, it changes to false.
Well, yeah, just more generally, this is in 29.9 seconds. This is going to change plain to false. At the end of every loop, we call this again, and then we log out if plain is true or false. Okay. So with this information, how can we stop calling move moles when the time limit is up? How can we combine line 12 and 13 so that we only call move moles if we still have time on the clock.
False statement?
I think that's right. You can say like if plain, and actually when it's a one-liner, you actually don't have to use curly brackets. Okay, let's try it. Gain a bunch of moles. You get some score here. Come on. There we go. 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, 5 points, 6 points, 7 points. I'm doing great. $16. New high score, Nico. Okay, now, it worked. You're right, Nico. So, Nico, what happened there?
Well, we were just saying that once the time runs out, stop the game, essentially. So, like, if it's playing and playing is true, continue playing. And once timeout is false, stop.
Yeah, I think that's right. We want to only call the moles again if we're still playing. So we can set the time limit to wherever we want. Okay. So let's do some review by quizzing you guys on how we make changes to the game. Okay. So let's say that I wanted to change the action. I want to require the user to double click on every mole in order to get points. What would I have to change? That's right, Allison. It's the first argument in the event listener. We change this to double click. Okay. No points, no points. Oh, come on, I almost got that one. Got a second point. Okay. So that's changed to your event. So we can do mouse over, we can do click, we can do whatever. That's the type of event. Okay. Now, let's say that we wanted to change the time limit on the game. What line of code we changed to make the game longer or shorter? Line 36, that's right, Alice. So we could say, hey, let's make it 30 seconds. Let's make it 100 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever. Let's do a shorter game. 9900. Up, out. Okay. Oh, wait. No. I guess I was wrong. Maybe I didn't hit run again. Yeah, this is our time limit. Okay. Back to 29 seconds. What if I wanted to change the speed at which the mole appears or disappears? What would I have to change? The CSS. What in the CSS have here? Animation duration. Sounds good. Okay. So let's say I change this to 1.75 seconds. It's weird. There's kind of a jump now that get in your face. I think it's because they start shrinking almost before they're done, getting bigger. Okay, and what if I say like 0.25? Whoa. Those moles really hide really fast. Alright, so you can see how you can mess around with that, have some fun. Okay. Then back to regular speed. There's my regular speed moles. So that is the wonderful world of moles, of whack-a-mole. I hope you guys have fun. I always thought whack-a-mole was a fun game at the arcade. Very physical game. So we're doing a special promotion thing for anyone who goes to the class. Really actually available to anyone. We're going to be doing free lessons next week. So if you want to do a free one-on-one introductory lesson, just email Nico at nico@bogotabootcamp.com. She's going to put that in the chat. And so we're doing a free hour for anyone who wants help. So a free hour for anyone who wants to do a lesson, and it's open to anyone. You could have taken the class before, you could be brand new, it doesn't matter. And we can work on whatever you want. We can work on Ruby or JavaScript, any kind of web development.
Thanks so much for joining us in today's class. We had so much fun with you guys, and it was great getting to hear from you and getting some feedback. So if you guys want to sign up for the free class with Granger, just send me an email, do it soon, and we'll see you guys next week for our next JavaScript class.